Three UFC world titles will be at stake on Saturday at Madison Square Garden in New York. Credit: Brian Mazik. UFC.com. Georges St. Pierre returns to the octagon after a 4-year absence to challenge Michael Bisping for the UFC middleweight title. In the co-main event, UFC men's bantamweight champion Cody Garbrandt will defend his title against former teammate turned bitter rival TJ Dillashaw. Also, Joanna Jedrzejczyk puts her strawweight title on the line against Rose Namajunas. Here are the 10 things you should know about UFC 217. Card, odds, picks, TV info and DraftKings advice. UFC Fight Pass prelims 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Fox Sports 1 prelims 8 p.m. Eastern Time. PPV main card 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Matchup weight class odds prediction DraftKings pick. Ayman Zahabi vs. Ricardo Ramos men's bantamweight Ramos -130. Zahabi +100 Zahabi by TKO Zahabi cancelled Alexei Oleinik vs. Curtis Blades heavyweight Blades -365. Oleinik +300 Blades by UD Blades Randy Brown vs. Mickey Gall welterweight Brown -164. Gall +136 Brown by TKO Brown Alvin St. Preux vs. Corey Anderson light heavyweight St. Preux -167. Anderson +120 St. Preux by submission Walt Harris vs. Mark Godbeer heavyweight Harris -385. Godbeer +285 Harris by Harris James Vick vs. Joe Duffy lightweight Duffy -260. Vick +180 Vick by UD Vick Joni Hendricks vs. Paulo Costa middleweight Costa -135. Hendricks +115 Costa by TKO Costa Stephen Thompson vs. Jorge Masvidal welterweight Thompson -154. Masvidal +126 Thompson by SDC. Joanna Jedrzejczyk vs. Rose Namajunas strawweight Jedrzejczyk -417. Namajunas +310 Jedrzejczyk by UD.C. Cody Garbrandt vs. TJ Dillashaw men's bantamweight Garbrandt -150. Dillashaw +110 Garbrandt by UD Georges St. Pierre vs. C. Michael Bisping middleweight GSP -130. Bisping +100 GSP by TKO. Everyone made weight, even Joni Hendricks. Former UFC welterweight Joni Hendricks has notoriously struggled to make weight for his fights. But he got the monkey off his back ahead of an all-important main card scrap with explosive Brazilian Paulo Costa. Every fighter on the card made weight. Here's a look at all of the weigh-in results. Main card. Michael Bisping, 184.6 vs. Georges St. Pierre, 184.4. For middleweight title, Cody Garbrandt, 135 vs. T.J. Dillashaw, 134.8. For bantamweight title, Joanna Jedrzejczyk, 115 vs. Rose Namajunas, 114. For women's strawweight title, Jorge Masvidal, 171 vs. Stephen Thompson, 170. 4. Paulo Costa, 185.8 vs. Joni Hendricks, 185.8. Preliminary card, Joseph Duffy, 155.4 vs. James Vick, 155.2. Mark Godbeer, 244 vs. Walt Harris, 251.8. Corey Anderson, 205.4 vs. Avance St. Preux, 205. Randy Brown, 170.8 vs. Mickey Gall, 169.8. Preliminary card, Curtis Blades, 258.8 vs. Alexei Oleinik, 246.2. Ion Cutelaba, 205. 6 versus Michal Alexiejczyk, 205, 2. Cancelled bout. Ricardo Ramos, 135, 4 versus Ayman Zahabi, 135, 2. Ion Cutelaba tested positive for a banned substance and is off the card. Ion Cutelaba pulled from UFC 217 one day before event due to potential anti-doping violation. https Abe.gov6pic. Twitter. com. S6DXA63N9Q. Mark Raimondi. @ Mark_Raimondi. November 3, 2017. Many fans were excited to see Ion Cutelaba take on Michal Alexiejczyk on Saturday's early prelims. But that fight has been cancelled. Cutelaba was flagged for a potential doping violation and no replacement was named to face Alexiejczyk. UFC history in NY and at Madison Square Garden. UFC 217 marks the 7th time the UFC will promote an event in the state of New York and just the second time the promotion will be featured at Madison Square Garden. This will mark the 3rd time Queens native Randy Brown has performed for the UFC in front of New York MMA fans. Stephen Thompson and Joanna Jedrzejczyk have all fought on previous New York UFC cards. Ranked and undefeated fighters and win streaks. 5 fighters come into Saturday's event undefeated. Champions Garbrandt, 11-0, and Jedrzejczyk, 14-0, have never tasted defeat as professionals. Also, Paulo Costa, 10-0, Ayman Zahabi, 7-0, and Mickey Gall, 4-0, are the other undefeated fighters. Half of the 22 fighters scheduled to compete are ranked. Ironically, Bisping is the only ranked fighter or champion not paired against a ranked opponent. Georges St. Pierre is no ordinary unranked fighter. The future Hall of Famer may not have fought in the past 4 years, but he's won his last 12 fights dating back to 2007. In case you were unaware why this fight was a big deal, that's part of the reason. Losing streaks. None. How stacked is UFC 217 on paper? Not one fighter on the card is on a losing streak. A few have lost their last bouts and Stephen Thompson has a loss and a draw in his last 2 fights. But none of the fighters are on the complete skids. Prelim fight you don't want to miss. There's something about the Randy Brown vs. Gall fight that intrigues me. Gall has made a name for himself against popular, but inexperienced fighters. It's going to be interesting to see what he does in the octagon against an athletic and dangerous veteran like Brown. We could learn if Gall is for real during this fight. Jorge Masvidal thinks he gets a title shot if he beats Wonderboy. There's no question in my mind Jorge Masvidal is one of the 4 or 5 best welterweights in the world. But according to Gamebred, he needs to beat Thompson to secure a title shot. I'm not sure if he's been promised that opportunity, but it doesn't seem far-fetched. He comes into the battle with the No. 2 ranked Thompson at No. 4 in the 170-pound division. Masvidal has yet to get his shot at the gold, and this could be his opportunity. A potential announcement for UFC 219 main event could happen. UFC 219 is less than 2 months away. There are already 8 fights signed, but there's no main event announced. Don't be surprised if Saturday is the day we find out which fight will headline the final show of the year for the UFC. UFC 3 commercials and advertisements should be in heavy rotation. On Friday, AI Sports announced the details for the upcoming UFC 3. The game releases on February 3 for PS4 and Xbox One. Expect to see and hear a good number of advertisements for the game during the UFC 217 broadcast.